All right, so if you stuck with me this far and you're at the next video, then you might be a story template aficionado like myself, so thank you for joining me again. We're going to get into where the rubber meets the road a little bit with Story Template Pro, and I can show you how it works in Fantasy Grounds. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and hide this and jump into the program. And so what we've got here is Story Template Pro Tester. And we're going to start off with column referencing. So let me unhide this. I've got this question mark from the previous video where it's hidden. So we're going to roll on NPC B. It's a large table. I just had to put a little B after it because I have quite a few tables, so I just got to make up names for them now. Let's take a look at table NPC B. It's huge. It's about 20 columns. It has gender, race, first name, last name, nickname, he, she, his, hers, him, her, trait, attitude, hair, eyes, voice, tattoo, clothes, background, religion, wants, and fears. So it's big. We're going to roll on that, and then we're going to take a look, and we're going to column reference using that hashtag symbol with the pipe, and then what column we want. And I've got down to table 11 on that. So let's go ahead and hit generate. So here we get the original table role. We got male, half-orc, Murin, quiet, widower, quiet, pirate, he, his, him, and all that stuff. And down here you can see we've referenced those specific columns wherever we wanted them. Now, I had it hidden before because you don't want this showing up in your story, so we use the syntax of a question mark. We go ahead and generate. It doesn't show it, but now we've rolled a male dragonborn, and we have all of his details. Now, we did down here, I've got another roll in the same table, just a second roll on the exact same table, and that's fine. It will work. We've generated another person here, but it will take its tables will then start, since the previous time we rolled it went to 20. Now that we roll on it again, it's going to start at 21 and go to 40, which isn't really, that gets ungainly if we're going to use these columns, and that's why custom naming can be really helpful. So internal reference and column references. So let's jump down to that. Here we're going to roll on 2 races 2. 2 races 2 is a very simple table, dwarf and human, that's it. Then we're going to use the results from that roll and stick that result inside of another table callout to determine what table we're going to roll on. So a blank name, and I've got 2 tables because I have 2 results here, right? A dwarf name and a human name. Both 2-column tables. One just has 2 different dwarf names, and the second column has red hat. And the second one has 2 different human names, and the second column of blue shoes. So there's our hierarchy there a little bit. So here you can see we rolled on 2 races 2, we got dwarf. It took dwarf, it stuck it into this table callout, and it rolled on the resulting table, giving us Calgoth, shoehorn, red hat. And so that's how internal referencing and column referencing work on that. We're getting to column references a little bit later. Internal column referencing. Custom naming. So super awesome and powerful when you're trying to do these types of things. Here what we've done is I've rolled on a color table using custom naming syntax with the colon. The other colon separates your custom name. I've named it shirt. So then later I reference it, shirt, and then later I reference the first column of it, 1. There is only 1 column in color, but you get the point. And so I've rolled color, turquoise. I referenced shirt and got turquoise, and I looked at the first column of that and I got turquoise. Internal callouts. So here we've got internal callouts. What we're doing is we're not referencing what we've rolled before. We're going ahead and rolling on a new table right inside of our table reference. So here we're going to roll on a blank name, either a dwarf name or a human name, and right inside we're going to roll on 2 races, dwarf or human. So and we're going to store that in a place we can reference called killer names. So here you can see I rolled on 2 races. We got a dwarf. It rolled Calgoth, shoehorn, red hat. Here we reference it with killer names. We get Calgoth, shoehorn, red hat again. And then I say I only want the second column from killer names, and we get red hat. Something else that was added kind of last minute at request was date calls. So here we've rolled on FG date or Fantasy Grounds date, and we get January 10th, 1984, which is the date on my calendar in Fantasy Grounds. And then here I rolled date, so this goes off my computer date, old school, and you can see I'm making this video Tuesday the 10th of November in the year of our Lord 2020. And so it's really powerful and awesome way to add dates to your story templates. You can also add any of these callouts and any of these uses. They can be used up in the name as well, which I've done here. You can see up at the top of this one, I've done Fantasy Grounds date. So in my resultant story that comes out, it put the date, January 10th, 1984, for my Fantasy Grounds calendar right up there. And there's lots of different formats you can use, as you saw in the other video. So cross-template referencing, here's the holy grail. What I've done here is I have used the curly bracket with the colon, and we're rolling on a dwarf name, and then I'm going to store it in Bilbo. That's what I'm going to store it as. So here we generated, and we got Calgoth, Shoehorn, Red Hat. So here I have a completely different template. This one is testing other things, but here I'm going to reference what I rolled in the previous template. We're going to reference Bilbo. It's where we stored it. And then I'm going to see what's in Bilbo column 2 from the other template. So let's go ahead and generate it. Here we get Calgoth, Shoehorn, Red Hat, and column reference Red Hat from the complete other template. And so in this way you can pass parameters in. You can take things from a parent template and you can filter all that story data right into other child templates from it, and it can make sense and it can flow. Now, these things are only stored until you reload the UI or you end the session, and then they're gone. So in that way you clear it out and it's usable again next time. But also, if you're going to go ahead and generate a bunch of things at once, I would recommend just go ahead and do it. Bring up your parent and generate all the things. Maybe put the date up in the title so that it's easily searchable and it's all together. So that is cross-template referencing. Last but not least, we're going to go over a couple different examples, just simple examples. So here on internal references to the right, you see we're going to roll on roster race columns. That is a table we're going to roll on. It's got two columns. One is a race and one is an adjective like dirty or filthy or grumpy or something. And then we're going to reference the second column of it. Then we're going to roll on a brand new table, gen to gender. It's just got a couple of genders, that's it. And then we're going to roll on a giant or a parent table. We're going to use the first column from roster race, which is the race and not the adjective. And then we're going to use the entire result from gen to gender to get our resulting table in the end. So let's go ahead and generate. We rolled human, and the second column of roster race was filthy. Settlement was owned by a rather grumpy filthy, so we called the second column again over here. And then we roll on gen to gender, and we got female. So we took the results of the first column of roster race, the entire result from gen to gender, and we rolled here on random human female full name, and we got Maud Cantrell. So that's how internal referencing can work. You don't have to use multiple references. You can only use one. You can use a bunch. But then I can just get whatever result I want from that table, and I can split it out. It's just really a powerful way to do things. Custom table naming, this is just another example here where on the right I rolled on a human name. I stored it in named. I later called it all of its results with named, and later I just wanted column 2. So here we got Rick Smith Blue Shoes, reference of named, got us Rick Smith Blue Shoes, and a column reference of the second column of named, got us Blue Shoes. One last example that we'll go over is NPC using column referencing again. So let's go ahead and clear this off. Here I'm rolling on NPC B again, and I'm hiding it, but I'll leave it hidden, that's fine. The bartender, so the best way to write story templates is to write the story first and then work backwards. That's a tip. Write what you want it to say or what you want it to sound like, and then come back in and ad-libs it from your table. So that's what I've done. I've written a paragraph. The bartender pointed over toward the dark corner and said, "Over there, the elf with the dragon tattoo. Following the gesture, you see a female elf staring your way with blue eyes and long hair. She motions you over, and as you approach, you notice she is overweight. She's wearing tattered clothes, and as she moves her pack aside, you see supplies a tinsmith might use. The name is Arya, but you can call me Arrow. Nice to meet you, finally." So I just wrote that because that's what I want it to sound like in the end. Then I copied it, I brought it down below, and I started mad-libsing out the things that my table could replace. Over there, the NPC B column 2 with the column 15 tattoo. Following the gesture, you see a column 1, column 2 staring your way with column 13 eyes and column 12. You get the point. So when we generate this, let me go ahead and move it. We get, the bartender pointed over toward the dark corner and said, over there, the gnome with the tree and vine tattoo. Following the gesture, you see a female gnome staring your way with magenta eyes and wearing a huge, well-groomed beard. That's a problem with my table that I could fix. Ignore for female. We can now fix that. That's I've used old tables here. I can now fix that with Story Template Pro. That's funny that popped up. She motions you over, and as you approach, you notice she is dangerous looking, fit, slender, and armed to the teeth. She's wearing tight clothes, and as she moves her pack aside, you see plies a rat catcher might use. The name is Orla, she says with a voice that is with a thick Jewish accent, but you can call me King Tiger. Nice to meet you, finally. So that ended up being kind of a comical one because of the tables that I used. Here I've rolled another one where we get a half-orc with a treasure map tattoo and showing premature hair whitening instead of a beard. The name is Shump, he says with a voice that is whiny, but you can call me Grave Executioner. So we're getting names that make sense for a half-orc or a gnome. Here we've got a dwarf, his name is Flinwin, and it makes sense. So that is an example. And as you can see, I've hidden, you don't see the results of NPCB. If I go ahead and unhide that, oops, wrong one. If I take off the question mark, you'll see it vomits out everything from NPCB. And that's why I've created the hidden feature, because that's not what we want in our story. We just want to use the columns that it produces. And that concludes my presentation for Story Template Pro, where the rubber meets the road. So thank you for joining me. I do hope that you pick up a copy, and I hope that you do amazing things with it. Thanks.